Welcome back to Politics for People. I'm Jimmy Fremgen. Before we get started on this week's video, I want to thank Brittany Peterson for signing up to support me on Patreon. She is my first super supporter on Patreon. Big thanks to you, Brittany, for helping make these videos possible. Today, it's that time. It's the week we've all been waiting for, those of us that care about politics. It's the political Thunderdome. It's the week of the first presidential debate, which means it's the first time that Vice President Biden and President Trump are going to be on the same stage, looking each other in the eyes, grilling each other on the ins and outs of their policies and what they plan to do for the American people. For President Trump, it means standing up and defending his record, the first 4 years of his presidency, and whether he deserves an extra 4 to get to a grand total of 8 or 12 or 16 or, however many he's decided he wants.
To making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election.
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been...
These debates are going to be different than any of the other 200-something debates we've seen so far in this campaign, because they've been organized by the Commission on Presidential Debates, otherwise known as CPD. Or, let's just call them the Commission, because that definitely sounds like something you get a pill for on Monday Night Football. The Commission has been around since 1988 and is a joint venture between the Republican and the Democratic parties, who fund it so that they have a non-biased forum for presenting a presidential debate. It's not hosted by a news channel, by a newspaper, or by any other group that might have some sort of agenda. It purely exists to host the debates. The commission will go out and find moderators and select the locations. Moderators are important because they're supposed to be the adults in the room, the ones that are supposed to be keeping the conversation flowing and prevent candidates from just attacking each other all the time. And locations matter because normally you get a great audience. Although in 2020, locations don't really matter. I'm in my living room. This is the first time I put pants on today. The moderator of the first debate is going to be Chris Wallace, host of Fox News Sunday. Now, I know what you're thinking. We all know about the opinion hosts that are on in primetime on Fox News. Chris Wallace isn't one of those. And in fact, he actually has a reputation as a really dogged and investigative reporter who hosts the marquee news show for Fox News on Sunday mornings. In all 3 presidential debates and in the vice presidential debate, the moderator gets to choose the topics and the questions. Afraid you're not going to get enough debate? Good news, we got 3 more for you. On October 7th, we're getting the vice presidential debate, and that's going to be hosted by Susan Page of USA Today. The second debate is going to be held on October 15th by Steve Scully of C-SPAN, and it's going to be a town hall, which means that voters are going to have the opportunity to specifically and directly ask questions of the candidates. This one will be hosted in Southern Florida, and if you know anything about C-SPAN, we can only hope that Steve Scully will bring some of the same production values and lots of shots of empty chairs. Town hall debates are great because they provide us with an opportunity to see an unvarnished interaction between voters and the candidates. You might recognize this clip from a town hall debate in 2008 when John McCain had to actually reach into a crowd and take the microphone back from somebody.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States. Now,
I got to ask you a question. I do not I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man.
Man, wouldn't it be great to have candidates that actually stood up for things that were true? Those were the days. Those were the days. That was 12 years ago. Why does that seem like it was so long ago?
No, ma'am.
The third debate is going to be on October 22nd. It will follow the same format as the presidential debate that we're having this week, and it'll be hosted by Kristin Welker of NBC News. In the past, there's been a lot of criticism of the moderators of these debates. One of the big things that came up in the last time around was that debate moderators were not fact-checking the candidates the way they should have been. There were definitely times when certain candidates, I don't want to name any names, but certain candidates were saying things that were just baseless and inaccurate, and moderators either didn't have the technology, the information, or the backbone to stand up and ask questions about them. We'll see this year whether or not that's actually the case. So why do these debates even matter? The short answer is that they probably don't, except for people like me. People like me, and by that I mean people that live and breathe politics, are going to be hunkered down in front of their television sets. Television sets? This is how old people that like politics feel on the inside. People like me are going to be hunkered down in front of their flat screen plasma LCD TVs, watching the debates on Tuesday, October 7th, the 15th, and the 22nd, because we can't help but obsess over everything that these people have to say and do. Televised debates haven't always been around. I mean, the TV hasn't always been around, but they've been around since 1960. The first one was between Vice President Nixon and future President Kennedy, and it was a big deal because for the first time it showed the power of TV in the political process. Kennedy, you may remember, kind of a good-looking guy, kind of like somebody else we know. Nixon didn't put on makeup for the debate, and Kennedy did. Nixon was a man of the 50s. He was vice president under Eisenhower, and he wouldn't put on any stinking makeup. And so as a result, all these nice camera shots that showed Kennedy showed a young-looking, handsome man that happened to be wearing makeup. And most people that watched the debate on television thought that Kennedy won. People that listened to the debate on the radio thought that Nixon had won, because apparently you can't hear good looks and charm on the radio. Since then, every presidential debate has been on TV, but political scientists are still unclear on exactly how it affects the race. The same study said that the commercials that they saw on TV, political commercials, were not nearly as helpful as debate performances. However, the scientists guessed, surmised, hypothesized that most voters aren't willing to admit that they probably did identify with that really nasty ad that really went in on the opponent, saying what a terrible person they were and that they hadn't paid more than $750 on their taxes in the last 5 years. Most voters ignore stuff like that. Voters are more likely to assign their predispositions to a candidate based on something that they specifically see in the debate, rationalizing how they felt about that person before even taking the time to hear what they had to say. If voters already know who they're going to vote for and how they feel, why do we even hold these debates? Even though most voters have strong partisan loyalties and most of us have already made up our minds about the election, I mean, I did, like a long time ago, didn't you? Even though most of us have already made up our minds about the election, it has been shown that these debates can have real results that relate to the election. There are usually small but significant swings in the polling. And a few points here or there can have real repercussions. In 2000, the election was so close that it literally went to the Supreme Court, where they had to decide whether or not to keep counting ballots because they had gotten to the point where they were literally counting them by hand. And in 2016, President Trump didn't even win the popular vote. He only won the Electoral College. Now, the amount that he lost by was only a few percentage points nationally, but if we're talking about changing national perspectives by 2, 3, 4% maybe because of these presidential debates, these things can have significant impacts on what's going to happen to our country. Hey, thanks for watching Politics for People. As you know from every YouTube video on the planet, I want you to do two things right now. I want you to subscribe, and I want you to like the post. Thumbs up button. If you're feeling really generous, hit that little bell down there to get notified when I make new videos.